Zoos are controversial. For many, it's the perfect destination for a family trip.
For kids, it's very important to have them experience all different kinds of animals.
But others see it as prisons for animals that keep them from fulfilling their true nature.
These animals are suffering from extreme stress.
According to the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums, over 700 million people worldwide visit zoos every year. The first public zoos evolved from the private animal collections of monarchs. The animals were showcased as living trophies. Today, zoos are meant to entertain and educate the public, but have a strong emphasis on scientific research and species conservation. Nowadays, over 10,000 zoos exist all over the world. But so does the controversy. Here at the Copenhagen Zoo, visitors can see 264 different animal species from all over the world. Mikkel Stelvi works as a zoologist. He has been working at the Copenhagen Zoo for 17 years.
We constantly develop, so now we consider ourselves a modern zoo with focus on the animals, obviously, but also doing conservation and research, and then giving our visitors a nice experience when they're here.
Throughout his career, Mikkel has been working closely with the musk ox and has been researching their behavior.
This is quite special for me because I've done research with these guys for many years, and I just think they're fascinating because they're adapted to an extreme environment, living close to the North Pole. So they're kind of like living almost on the edge all the time because it's so extreme.
Like many other animals at the Copenhagen Zoo, the musk ox is a threatened species.
The main purpose of a zoo is to do conservation, to help threatened animals in the wild. We can do that in many ways, and one of the ways is to educate our visitors about the nature and the habitats and the wild and the threats that the animals are facing. But we can also do work in the wild, helping different threatened animals.
Not everyone agrees that conservation is a valid reason to keep animals in captivity. PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, is one of the biggest animal rights organizations in the world. Sasha Kamili is a representative for PETA UK.
Animals are pretty much driven to insanity by captivity. And you can see this if you see them pacing around in circles or like walking in tight circles around themselves or swaying back and forth or self-mutilating. These are all signs that these animals are suffering from extreme stress.
The Copenhagen Zoo is open for discussion with the animal rights activists.
Well, it's true that some animals are experiencing stress, and that's usually because they get frustrated or can really do what they would like to do. And that can be within many behaviors. That can either be food related or stress related or predator related or whatever. And we will of course try to compensate for that and then give the right environment, change the environment in order to get the animals to be less stressed.
The Vegan Party is a Danish political party that fights for animal rights. They protest against the meat industry, but also against zoos. Tina Pihl Østberg and Henrik Windfeldt are against the concept of zoos for several reasons.
Having an elephant or a lion or a rhino in the middle of a Scandinavian capital is wrong. Like, it is, animals should be in the wild, they should be in their natural habitat.
For Tina, animals don't have enough space to roam around like in the wild.
Elephants or other animals walking long distances is usually because they either seek food or water or mates, or they want to look for different resources. If we can actually supply those resources for them here, they don't need to walk long distances, and they actually don't want to do that as well.
But space is not the only argument against zoos.
Obviously, elephants from a very tropical climate should not be in Copenhagen in Scandinavia, where it's cold in winter and probably not as warm here in summer as it would be in Africa.
The zoo can only provide natural climate for some of their animals.
Some animals do have some very specific environmental conditions, either temperature or humidity, that they need in order to survive. Other animals can actually adapt to different climate. We can have the lions that usually live in Africa, we can have them outside in the snow because they just grow, some more fur, and they can actually get used to the cold.
Nevertheless, Tina also acknowledges the zoo's effort in conservation.
There's different animal species going extinct, and it's important for us to have zoos so that we will still have them. If you talk about those specific animals, then maybe the zoo has kind of a purpose.
However, not all of the animals in the zoo are threatened by extinction.
For example, the zebra. There's no reason to conserve the zebra. There's loads of zebras in Africa, but you still have them because they're like part of the package, right? They're part of the entertainment.
But the zoo argues differently.
A very important part of doing conservation work is to educate our visitors. And to educate our visitors is not only about educating about the threatened animals, it's about animals in the wild in general.
The International Union for Conservation of Nature registers about 15,000 species as endangered. Zoos play a huge role in animal preservation by breeding endangered species.
I think we have accomplished a lot. The problem is that it's really hard to show, if we do a lot of work, that work will show in 20, 50 years from now when we have helped or secured some of those populations.
The Copenhagen Zoo was able to release golden lion tamarins back into their natural habitat because of their breeding program. But it is not easy to release animals back into the wild.
At the moment, there are still too many threats with poachers or habitats being destroyed, forests being cut down.
There are less than 100 amur leopards in the wild, but in the European breeding program, there are around 400 of them.
If we were able to secure the habitat or the areas for the amur leopard, we could actually release leopards into the wild and thereby helping the animals in the wild.
Due to the habitat loss, many animal species are threatened.
We should focus on habitat protection, because where do we even release these animals if their natural habitats are gone? That should be priority.
The exchanging of animals between zoos is a crucial part of the European breeding program. This bear is being transported to France.
The most important part of having breeding programs is to secure what we call a healthy population. We need to have them breed in a way that we will avoid what we call inbreeding. So if the same small group of animals are breeding with each other, we will get inbreeding and we'll end up having a population that is not healthy genetically wise.
That means that sometimes animals have to die. When a zoo animal does not fit into the breeding program, zoos sometimes kill the animal to have space for another genetically fit animal.
This is a necessary thing when you're running a zoo and keeping the healthy populations of giraffes or any other animals. Sometimes some of these animals will become surplus and we will have to euthanize them because we can't send them out somewhere else and there's no room for them.
In 2014, a 2-year-old giraffe was put down at the Copenhagen Zoo because its genes were too similar to the other giraffes. Even though zoos all over the world find it necessary to kill some of their animals, Denmark has found a unique way in doing so. They dissect their animals in front of the zoo visitors.
Well, we do a lot of education activities. We tell about the animals and show the animals and tell about the behavior, but also we want to show our visitors what the animals are sort of adapted to, and some of that is inside the animal. So if we can dissect an animal and show what an animal looks like on the inside, it's really a great experience especially for kids.
After killing the giraffe, the Copenhagen Zoo has been in the news all over the world.
They shot the giraffe in the head, they cut it up, and they fed it to the lions.
People love giraffes. Children love giraffes. Why put the giraffe down just to keep it from breeding?
The carcass of a baby giraffe was fed to lions and to cougars in front of zoo attendees, including itty-bitty children.
We were quite shocked or overwhelmed by the reactions, because this is not a new thing for us. I mean, unfortunately, we have had to do this before with other animals as well.
Animal rights activists from all over the world don't agree with this practice.
Breeding animals in zoos has to stop, because basically what we're doing is we're putting down healthy animals to make room for new ones. And there's just no excuse to be doing something like this. And there would be no need to put down these animals if they weren't bred into existence for humans to look at anyway.
There are other places for people to learn about animals. Some of them fulfill criteria close to the animals' natural living conditions. At the Randers rainforest, animals live in climates that are typical to their homelands. Even when it's cold outside in Denmark, inside the Randers rainforest, it's always tropical. John Knudsen is a biologist at the Randers rainforest.
Well, what we want to create here is an experience of being in the real rainforest. So in here it's warm and it's humid, and we have a lot of free-roaming animals just crawling around all over the place.
Another important task for the Randers rainforest is to ensure that the animals' natural habitats in the wild are saved.
We also want to participate in conservation. Randers rainforest has bought rainforest in Ecuador just to protect it.
Another option is the Repark Safari. Here they have over 70 hectares for the animals to roam around freely. This is equivalent to 70 football fields. Jesper Stegård has been the parks director for over 10 years. He not only works here at the safari park, but also in national parks in Kenya.
The safari parks obviously have a lot more space and use that as part of their policy for keeping the species.
All of the animals in the safari park are part of their conservation program.
I think a very, very crucial thing about keeping exotic animals in captivity is that you have to realize that you have a responsibility to get involved with conservation projects anywhere in the world.
But for Peter, there is no good way to keep animals captive.
Even the most well-intentioned places that are maybe have bigger enclosures or something like that, it's just impossible for this kind of environment to meet the complex needs of a wild animal.
Potential visitors need to even out the pros and cons when going to the zoo.
We would definitely like for zoos to be phased out of society. But we want people to realize that animals are not entertainment. Animals are not here to entertain us.
Mikkel is not worried about the future, but sees room for improvement.
I see a future for some of the zoos that are developing and keeping a focus on doing conservation and research, because I think that's the most important part.
The controversy remains and will continue in the future.